Okay. Good morning, everyone. we have oh, you can see the people up there. So we've got probably a few more in the gods than we have with us here at the moment. Yeah. And you're all rather spread out. I'm going to have to go like this. Give my neck exercise. You can sit on a cushion by all means, but that would be better. Then you're not quite. I don't miss you completely. That's great. It's a sort of cozier feel somehow. I don't miss you out. So thank you so much for coming and attending this intensive 2-day course on refuge. And normally in Discovering Buddhism, you would do a session a week. And I don't know who is attending who hasn't taken refuge, yeah? So usually this course is given to enable people to make up their minds whether they want to take refuge or not, to really seriously consider the consequences of tying oneself up with Buddhism, yeah? Or whether you're actually unknotting and letting go, yeah? So anyway, that's what this course is all about. And as always in my weekend courses, there'll be an opportunity for meditation and discussion in the morning and the afternoons, yeah? So plenty of opportunity for you to get together and talk about what you know and what you feel. So over the course of the 2 days, these are the topics we'll be covering. And to begin with, I would like to say that normally we start Buddhist sessions with prayers. But when I was thinking about this, I thought, well, if you haven't taken refuge, you don't really know why you're saying the prayer, yeah? So it's much better to say the prayers when you know why you're doing it and you have more conviction. So I don't want to start with the formal prayers, but I would like to start with the motivation of why you're here, why you're here on Zoom, and what it is about this weekend that you hope to get. I always like to do that. So we're really clear about why am I attending? Why am I doing this? We know we always gain extra insights, but what in particular is there that you wish to get from this? So if you'd just like to lower your eyes for a moment and we'll focus on those thoughts. And if you are a Buddhist and you want to take refuge quietly, then do that. So we're considering what it means to take refuge. We're also looking honestly at what we do take refuge in and why. We're going to consider all the worldly stuff that's out there that we grasp onto and hope will bring us joy, peace of mind, contentment. And if it does, and if not, why not? And it's a great opportunity, especially if you're practicing Buddhist and you've been for years and you say automatically these refuge prayers and you generate bodhicitta, to really think about the qualities of the Buddha, the Dharma and the Sangha. What exactly are they and what do they mean to us? And also the role of the teacher. This title we often hear of guru devotion. What exactly does it mean, and how does it fit into your life? What it means to be enlightened. Do you have a physical body? How do you help people? Where do you go? Is there a place? What is it all about? The bodies of a Buddha, absolutely magical, inspiring, unimaginable. So your own little silent refuge prayer can be exactly what you want it to be. It can be creative, personal. So spend a few minutes deciding on your motivation. And taking refuge in the fact that you're here. Today, this is your refuge. Okay. When I create these PowerPoint presentations, I have a lot of fun going on Google Images. I'm finding these little symbols and pictures. And I thought actually that kind of sums it up, because Lama Yeshe's koan to me was, where is your home? Which I'm still trying to figure out. But it is about home and what that means to us, and that security is, there's like a big fence around it, isn't it? A big circle, somehow safe. So the word refuge, shelter, reliance, safety, all those words that we know mean so much physically to people who are refugees. We can see, if we haven't been there ourselves, how incredibly challenging that is, to be torn away, ripped away from everything you know, where everything was safe and now is unsafe. And you have to literally, sail oceans where you may not even make it in order to find at the other end, perhaps not even the kind of refuge you imagined. So to be homeless in any sense of the word, we know that that is a physically very challenging, and we can easily get sick and we can die. So when we're talking about spiritual refuge, surely we're using the same ideas, is that we're lost. We've lost, everything we rely on doesn't seem to give us what we need, and we feel much at sea and searching, and we may spend our whole lives not finding that refuge. Yeah? Many people do, because their lives are spent going from place to place, from job to job, from relationship to relationship, and always feeling this sense of yearning, or something's incomplete. And so then we get involved in disorders of many kinds, as we try to fill that hole in ourselves. So we're all of us, every single being craves it, searches for it, wants it, needs it. It's absolutely essential. And we know that if you come into the world and you don't get that kind of feeling of safety when you're young, how it can damage your whole life because you never experienced a sense of rest and refuge. So it's really important, yeah? And we see it as a very basic practice, really. You come into Buddhism and you, oh, this seems good. Oh, this is right. This is fantastic. I found it. I take refuge. Then we say the prayers, often quite mechanically, each day. But so it is a great opportunity to really think about why we take refuge, because it's the absolute foundation for our practice. So if you're coming to this course and you're wanting to, think about, well, I've got a good home, I'm very lucky, I've got a job, I've got a family, that actually is my refuge. We need to think about it in a more spiritual way. So first of all, let's consider all those things that we turn to when we need support, because that's why we feel our home and our family is important, because if anything goes wrong, then we get support. We can go home, we can shut that door, shut out the world, and we can maybe see somebody who will give us a hug, or we can sit down and talk to them and feel some sense of security. So temporarily, in a secular way, that is absolutely lovely. Nobody is suggesting that we give that up if we have it. But if we look deeper, we can see that what happens when we're in need of support is that we tend to look at objects in desperation that they're going to support us and help us. So, a lot of people, they get home from, I know this, not from my own experience necessarily. I see it on telly. People come home, they get the bottle of wine and they pour themselves a glass. It's on every TV show, especially American ones, I have to say. And it's like, gosh, we've turned into a society of alcoholics, really, because as soon as we get home, we head for the fridge or the red wine or whatever it is, we pour ourselves a glass. And then that's refuge. I can let go now. It's that kind of feeling, isn't it? Yeah. So that's an obvious one that comes to me. But we take refuge in food. Food is a huge thing, and again in our society, it's become almost an obsession. So much so that half of the photos on social media are of people's dinners. And I know it from, my friends and family as well. They'll be out at a restaurant and they'll send you a photo of their dinner. In fact, I did the same yesterday because Karen took me to Joe's Diner and I finally had my pancakes with crispy bacon, excuse me, vegetarians, and maple syrup. And I said, take a picture. My son would love this. And that's what we do. Now that is, I know it was only light and I understood what I was doing and it's fun, but it's not always like that for people. It is obsessive. And also if they're looking on social media, they're looking at images of other people and they're taking refuge in the fact that they will aim to be like that person. They will aim to have, oh, I like their hair. I'll change myself. Because if I change myself into that person, then that will make me happy. So that is refuge. You know, I'm going to go there. I'm going to be that person, or as like that person as I can, and then I'll feel secure. That's what it's about, isn't it? It's security. So we're taking refuge in worldly concerns. There are particular references to these in Buddhism. So we can look at these. These are well known. We've got 4 here, and then we've got 4 on the next slide. So the 8 worldly dharmas, often called 8 worldly concerns. I like the word dharma as well, because dharma means truth. And it is what people think are true. You know, we are living in this world, and if we go for these things, that is what is truthfully going to bring us happiness and fulfillment. Yeah. So craving for pleasure of the 6 senses, well, that's very hedonistic, isn't it? And again, you know, the getting a glass of wine, the going out to parties, the socializing in pubs. I know you don't have bars here. I don't know whether you use those in the same way, but going out for meals, it's massive. It's massive. And actually, that is all about, if I do this, it will bring me a sense of, and I can only do it like that. It's that kind of, isn't it? I've had my glass of wine, I've had my nice meal, I'm with the people. Did you have a nice time? I had a lovely time this evening. Yeah. But then, what are you left with? It's over. It's temporary. It's temporary. So then what do you need to do? You need to do it again and again and again. And it needs to be regularly through your life so that you feel that that source of refuge is bringing you something in your life. Yeah. Again, do not think I'm saying don't go out for dinner with your mates. That's not what I'm saying. It's just how we view it and whether it's craving. That's the point. And I'm probably teaching, you know, to the converted here. But if I was teaching out there, this would be a massively new idea, you know, that I'm presenting. So that's a shame. They're not here, isn't it? But you know, this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a world who is completely convinced that there are certain things in life that you need to have, and that will make you feel secure, and that will make you feel happy. And if we indulge in pleasure of the 6 senses, that is one of the refuge. Now, craving to be free of the unpleasant is the same thing. So it's not only the search for the best restaurant at the best price, but it's also to make sure that you try not to see anything bad on your way to the restaurant. Yeah? Or, you know, if you pass the homeless that you think, well, I gave them $20 last week or whatever, and what a shame. And there's a bit of us that is cutting off. It's natural. It's natural. We can't take them home with us. But we can see also they are giving us an incredible reminder of what it's like to be homeless and not have refuge. Yeah. And even they will be taking refuge. They'll have their mates and they'll have their dogs. They're taking refuge. They're still taking refuge in worldly things. They just don't have access in the same way that we do. So, craving to hear sweet, ego-pleasing words or sounds. Well, and craving to not hear ugly, displeasing words or sounds. That dominates our days, really. You know, are people being nice to me? Am I getting on with them? And is anybody said anything mean? Or what did they mean by that anyway? That's a dominant factor with us. So personal affection and rejection. And we know that if we don't get that affection and we do feel rejected, that's what causes a lot of our disturbing emotions. Disturbing emotions, that will dominate, that will take us through, that will come back at 3 a.m, the next day, until it eventually fades or sorts itself out. And several years later, you'll look back and you'll think, how ridiculous was that? But at the time, our ego is desperate to have a sense of security and safety amongst the people that we know. Yeah. So we take refuge in others. Always come back to that. How is this refuge? I'm taking refuge in my friends. Do take refuge in your friends, and sometimes it works very well. But how reliable is it? This is what we're always coming back to, and which we'll come into when we look at the qualities of the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, is that we can't rely on even the people we love the most, because we're all limited beings. We're all basically needing to look after number one, first of all, and we can give and give and give and be very selfless, but in the end, we have to come back in order for our own survival to look after ourselves. And our relationships with other people are very prone to being like the roller coaster. I've got a good relationship now, and then they move away and I don't see them for years. And then when we meet, we don't really have much in common anymore. So it's very dependent on having something in common. Yeah. So while we're all here, we have this in common. And then people move away, and then they find something where they are. So they won't necessarily always come back to you. You can keep friends. You can keep friends for years and years, but they're not always there for you. So again, it's a social construct which is pleasant and can nourish you, but isn't reliable as a source of refuge. That's the point. That's the point. Okay. Okay, so let's go on to the other ones. So the 8 worldly dharmas, craving to acquire material things and avoid losing or not getting material things is all about materialism. Yeah. So we know this. And again, I've taught on this a few times since I've been here. It's a very common teaching, but we do need to be reminded, because it's so easy, to shop and get nice things and feel good, but also that's fine again, but if we shop every time we feel miserable, then it's therapy, retail therapy, isn't it? Yeah. I need some retail therapy. What that person is saying actually is that I need to fill a hole. It's not that I need a new sweater, but I need the retail therapy. The feeling of going somewhere which is bright and colourful, buying something new, feeling good about it. Very temporary, very temporary. Because that lovely shiny object, we know with children, don't we? You buy them a lovely shiny toy and they love it for a little while usually. And then they want another shiny toy because they've done that, and it's not so shiny anymore anyway. Yeah. So we go for the shiny objects, like magpies, aren't we? Looking for shiny objects. The magpies will get little bits of silver paper and take them back to their nest, and they're always looking. I wonder what the karma is for a magpie. Yeah, but we can be like magpies. Yeah, always looking for the next shiny object. Oh, that's nice. And again, all these things superficially fine and fine to enjoy, but it's whether we form an attachment to the idea that if I do this, it will bring me happiness. And we know, again, I've seen it on the TV, people whose credit cards, they're in terrible debt, and they show you, their wardrobes full of shoes and this, that, and the other, which they can't possibly have enough days to wear them in. but they just keep getting more. That's an extreme, but people like this do have that illness. It's a disorder, and they have their credit cards taken away from them, and then they pay back, and they don't have the money, but they just have to keep buying. So we see the extremes in society of materialistic craving. We see people who get things when they need them, and maybe this is nice and that's okay. I can buy this now, I can afford it. And then we see people that have to keep having new things, have to change their car every 2 years or whatever it is. Have to, oh, I've got the house. This is a lovely house. I could do with a new bathroom. And then that gets done. And then after a while, the kitchen's looking shabby now. And so it goes on, doesn't it? It's endless. I remember Geshe Tashi saying to me, you Westerners spend a lot of money on your houses, don't you? And that's the sort of buying house culture that we've been encouraged. We didn't have that when I was growing up. We lived in council houses, most of us. Social housing, I guess so you didn't have the same obsession. That's an interesting fact. If you're renting, you don't have the same obsession with improving your property. Yeah. Yeah, we're getting a lot of nodding heads here. There's this sense that you're improving it because it'll improve its value. But I know people, they're always living in a building site because there's always something being redone to their houses. And what perfect example is that, of that little image of the house in the circle, of people of people putting so much energy. It's so much energy into changing constantly, improving, and then it's good. And then, of course, I know people who do improve, and then they go, well, we're going to get a new house now. So they put it up for sale. And it's like they've spent all that energy and then they get a better one. And so it goes on. We kind of take refuge in projects. I need a new project. I don't know what to do with my time. I need a project. What am I going to do? So the new project is spiritually, if only we realize the new project is the existing project of oneself. But because we're materialistic and we crave to put everything right out here, if I put everything right out here, then I'm all right in here. That's ignorance. That is ignorance. That is where we've totally missed the point. Yeah. So the last one, craving for personal praise and admiration, slander, blame, and criticism, is a bit like the other one, really. But this is more about status and power. That there are people out there in the world, not us, of course. That there are people who just need the power and the status to feel in control. It's a serious illness. That is serious illness. Terrible lack of self-esteem on a very subtle level, which produces these great big Buddha monsters. Yeah, you know what we call them. There's really sick people who they're still Buddha, remember, they've still got Buddha potential, but it's so hidden by this idea that the ego has to be massive in order for them to feel safe. We don't have to look far for dictators and things these days, do we? So there you have I missed anything out? Well, you can discuss that later, but the 8 worldly dharmas, let's just go back to that. We've got hedonism, there's the 2 there, craving, and then craving to be free of the unpleasant. That's all hedonism, because the end of the party, when you go home and then the drugs wear off the alcohol wears off, and in the morning you're left going, oh, like this, and a kind of weird, empty feeling because the party's over. That's kind of craving to be free of the unpleasant. We don't like that. Yeah, we want the high, we don't want the low, and there you've got the attachment to the high and the aversion to the low. That's all coming out of our ignorance. We've done that and we've done that. Okay, so I hope there's clarity in that. So the point of this is to make it very clear that the world is a samsaric playground if you're lucky. If you're lucky. And the world is also samsaric war ground, battleground, constantly battling to survive in it. What we do, we've got these neural pathways, and it's like we keep going down the road and there's a hole in the ground, you know, and we keep finding this hole, but the next time we still go down the same road, even though we know there's the hole in the road. Instead of recognizing that there is another pathway where actually you get more and more nourished until, and guided and taken to enlightenment. Yeah, two pathways. And we keep going down the road with where there's all holes in it, and we're going to fall down and we're going to suffer. And then we get back up and come out, oh, I'll go down that road again. That's what we're doing. We're going down the same old road all the time, not realizing that if we just practice the neural pathway of inner refuge, of taking genuine refuge, then it would be whatever holes in the road we came to, it wouldn't knock us over. We wouldn't fall down because we'd have support and guidance. Yeah? Maybe it's not a very good metaphor, but you know what I mean. So, oh yeah, I've got becoming an inner being here. Yeah. So, nothing is reliable. Nothing is reliable. You tell me, you discuss it when you get into your groups. You see, what is there that's reliable, that you can really go to and think, oh, I feel safe. Oh, this is the way to live. That's what we want. We want meaning, and we want a sense of purpose. Why am I here? I don't know if there are people who never ask that question. I think the times that we ask that question is when everything goes wrong. Yeah? So you might, and again, this is something I always talk about with karma. I don't know whether you can say good karma or bad karma, because if you're living a very shallow life, you know, a hedonistic, materialistic life, very, very kind of typical life. You're a nice person, there's nothing wrong with you. You're living like everybody else. And then it kind of just carries on like that. Is that good karma? Surely it's good karma to meet a big obstacle, everything go wrong, and then go, whew, what's all this about? And then to search the meaning. Surely that bad karma is good karma. Because we all need that. We need to wake up, which of course is what Buddha means, awakened from the sleep of how most of us live. We live as if we're asleep. So, what we do when we get to that point, when we realize it's all empty, when we realize, I'm talking about normal empty here, you know, this kind of lacks meaning, that kind of empty. And we get to a point where we think, well, what am I doing here? Then, of course, we know we know that we're in such a world, we're living in such a world now that many people will just kill themselves. We've got terrible, statistics on suicide, or going deeper into drugs where they're just trying to enter oblivion to shut everything out, yeah, end it all, little knowing, of course, what we have been taught and we understand due to recognizing the nature of the mind. It is continuous. You only end the body. You don't end the consciousness. And then that consciousness will be even more tormented. So if you get to a point where you are fortunate enough to go, oh, I need meaning and purpose in my life, and then you find it, it's like, that's incredible, because so many people don't. They don't find that. So we're thinking, oh, well, this happened to me. Oh, this is great. I've got Buddhism now. But other people have their own religion, and that gives them meaning and purpose, and that's fine. I'm talking about a lot of those 8 billion people don't have anything. And that's why we have really high statistics for mental illness, and so many young people committing suicide. The reason they're doing it is not because really they lost their house or their job or their dog or their girlfriend. It's not really because of that. It's because life has no meaning, they have no purpose, and they just see it as endlessly like a big deep pit. Yeah? At the time they do it, at the time they commit suicide. Well, I know I'm getting quite extreme now, but it is very common now, and you hear it more and more, and you think how desperate, that lovely young girl, whatever, she was being bullied at school, and she commits suicide. And we get these stories all the time in the UK of school children through social media, because they lack, even within their families, they lack a sense of meaning and purpose. They don't have that. And so they're relying on other people's opinions of them. Let's have a look at that, craving for the worldly Dharma there, of not hearing blame and degradation. They're longing all the time for approval, and they don't get it. And because they've got no sense of what they are themselves, in desperation, they do these very, very tragic things. What we find when we come across a spiritual path is meaning and purpose. And what Buddhism gives us is an enormous sense of our own potential. So it's immediately nourishing, because we suddenly think, it's not out there, it's in here. Yeah, it's in here. I'm listening to these teachings, and I'm being told all these amazing things that I can become Buddha, or I can deal with my issues myself. I can be my own therapist, and I'm being given, or I'm not just being told, God is great. I'm being told, you are great. I am great. I can be great. I don't have to rely on that external source. It's all within me. So we then become an inner being. So what we need to do in order to understand what we've got is to kind of look at who gave us all this, who was it that has given all these teachings? Because they make sense. They make really sound psychological sense. I get it, but who said? So then we look to the sources, and that becomes our house. That becomes our house, that lovely little house, you know, with the fence around it. I can go in here and I have guidance, I have support, and that will nourish my inner self. Okay, so we do need to understand at the start of this the nature of mind. So all the teachings on, you know, the nature of mind, the scope of the mind, the qualities of the mind, the fact that consciousness is energy, it never dies, that there is rebirth, that there is karma, all those things are part of the support system. Because what we're recognizing is that in my life, whatever happens to me, or the people around me, or all the crazy stuff I see that is going on, it's impermanent. And there will be rebirth. There will be regeneration. So that is a huge sense of refuge as well. Because if you're living a life where you think, okay, well, you know, this does not explain why my baby brother, who at 2 years old died. Yeah. What about his enlightenment? Well, we know that the body goes and then the consciousness is continuing. So there's that perpetual journey for all of us. And everything is impermanent. Everything is impermanent, including our own suffering. And if we can get to grips with that, then we're on the right road. So who is it that is setting the train in motion? You know, who we have the three jewels are the three sources of refuge, and we find out that it was the Buddha. Yeah, so it's Buddhism. You know, so where does that come from, and what do we understand by the three jewels? Well, we know that Buddha means awakened, yeah? Enlightened. It has different kinds of translations. So who was the man who became Buddha? Then we discover that he became enlightened, and that quality of enlightenment carried on as a form of teaching. He didn't leave. He gave us the teachings, and then other people practiced them. And then they gave us the teachings, and then they became enlightened. So it's like, oh, okay, so it's not just like God, and nobody can be like God. It's actually a quality that I can reach and other people can reach. So that's hugely attractive as well. So the Sanskrit, let's get to grips with the meaning of these words now. The Sanskrit for the three jewels is Triratna. Yeah. And then the Pali is Tisarana, which is threefold going for refuge. So we don't just have God. It's not just God. Yeah. We've got three sources. So yes, the Buddha gave the teachings, but he's not around now. But his teachings are. Yeah? And then there are people who are practicing them, and they're incredible role models, and we can see that, and they're teaching us. So that's three sources, absolutely vital. So what we learn about the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha is that there are external images, you know, no photos of Buddha, but there are images that have been made, yeah, since the time he existed. The first image was when he sat by a lake. It was said that he would, well, it's called, I can't remember, but it's called the lake image or something like that. But he sat by a lake. He was so bright that the artist couldn't draw him directly. So it's called the reflection image, because he drew his reflection in the water. Because he was shining so much, it was difficult to look at him. So that's where we get the idea of the Buddha from. So yeah, okay, let's just go on to this. I'm getting carried away now. Okay, So let's look at the Buddha. Going off on tangents. So let's have a look at the Buddha. Okay, so here's some of all his qualities. That's what we're thinking about. Omniscient. Now that's what we think of as God in all the hymns, isn't it? Omniscient means, you know, that he can be looking fully at you and at the same time taking in everybody else. Yeah. And knowing all their minds, knowing your mind, and knowing your past, and knowing your future. Omniscience. All knowing, everlasting. Now that's one of the things that we find so difficult in life, is that nothing lasts. Even if we have a 65-year marriage or whatever, eventually they'll die and then you're on your own, or you have to part in death. And so, you know, what is permanent? Even if you look in nature, there's nothing that you can rely on. You can especially see that now. Is that good or bad karma? It should be waking us up, shouldn't it? So everlasting, permanent, peaceful, and entirely in the nature of wisdom and compassion. Okay. So wood, waking up. Sangha in Tibetan, clear or purified and evolved. That's a nice translation, isn't it? Because we are evolving. And that is our inner refuge in our Buddha nature. We all have Buddha nature. And if we can purify that, then we will be Buddha. When we evolve, we will be Buddha. It's definite. It's definite. It just takes some people longer than others. Yeah? Some beings longer than others. We're all on the path. So Buddha is a being who has purified all delusions and developed all good qualities. The realization of emptiness, or the achievement of nirvana, liberation, is the goal of the Hinayanas or Theravadins, and we call those arhats. And then the goal of the Mahayana path is to continue after liberation to use one's wisdom to develop bodhicitta fully until we are fully enlightened. So that is who we're taking refuge on, a fully enlightened being. And also this quality of unconditional love. So it's like you can go home and you can tell them anything you want. If you're doing the external refuge, you can sit there and think, oh, I've done this and I've done that. I'm such a bad person. And they still love you the same, just like a parent. So it's got that kind of, perfect parental aspect to the Buddha, is that you feel there's no point in hiding because they're clairvoyant anyway. So, but even if you lied, they would love you fully. Yeah. So, unconditional love and equanimity, in that there's no point trying to think, well, I'll become the Buddha's main disciple and sit on his right hand side in heaven. Yeah? Everybody, every single being is somehow wrapped up in that love of the Buddha. So those are some of the qualities of the Buddha. Let's have a look at the 10 powers of the Buddha. So, we're said to be different scope. We're, small, medium, or great scope, depending on our intelligence, I guess, and our karma. Yeah. So we can either be avoiding lower rebirth. So we're having the aim in our next life of having a precious human rebirth, or practicing non-virtue and practicing virtue, or developing bodhicitta. So we're developing renunciation with bodhicitta motivation. Yeah. So wherever we are on the scale, the Buddha, if we're engaged with the Buddha, we've taken refuge in the Buddha, that will help us. That doesn't mean to say that the Buddha isn't helping every single being. But because there's like a click, you've recognized it and you're on the path, then the Buddha can help you more because you're opening to those qualities. Yeah. So Buddha knows our minds better than us. Our minds are too deluded to have clarity. And it takes us a lifetime to realize certain things about ourselves. So we get fast tracked, don't we? With the Dharma, with practicing the Dharma, we get fast tracked. So look at all those powers there. Knows, basically, karma, desires, predispositions, what we come in with, our capabilities, whether, when a teacher tells you, when a guru or a teacher tells you, or you do this practice or you do that practice, they're showing the qualities of the Buddha there because they're knowing what suits your mind. It won't be the same for everybody. Knowing different meditations for different minds, spiritual inclinations, knows where you come from, knows the death process, so can guide us through it, and knows what obstacles we have abandoned. So when we talk about omniscience, that's what we're talking about. Okay, so what you want to consider, is that a good source of refuge? The Buddha, he became enlightened, he's overcome samsara, he's destroyed ignorance, aversion and attachment, he has unconditional love, he's permanent, he has all these qualities. Shall I take refuge in him? That's what we're thinking, isn't it? How does that compare to my husband? Oh dear, that's what we're thinking. Yeah. Well, yeah, I can sit down and we can have a discussion, we can sort this out. But ultimately, in terms of my spiritual path, that this part of myself that is so important that if I ignore it, I could end up wasting a life. Is that the sort of guide I want? That's what we're thinking. Okay. So let's look at the Dharma, because the Dharma it is really seen as the main refuge. This is what we're taking refuge in. Okay, we know the Buddha taught it. We can see him as a role model. Hey, it's a long time ago. So what have I got now? I've got the Dharma. And it's come all the way down. There's an unbroken lineage. If you look back all the way from the Indian sages, all the way through, and it, traveled on the Silk Path to China and Japan and Tibet and all Southeast Asia. It went everywhere, got its own little cultures added onto it, but basically the Dharma is the same. The path to liberation is the same everywhere. And then as it developed and as the Buddha taught it to special beings, bodhicitta was incorporated. So we get full enlightenment. So here's the path, that which holds. That's the Sanskrit root, Dhri, D-H-R-I, that which holds. It's not a leaky pot. Yeah, it's not a broken pot. It's not an empty pot. It's that which holds. It's called the middle way because, as we just talked about, we're moving away from nihilism and eternalism. Eternalism in that, I think I'll live forever. I'm 25 and I can speed up and down the road drunk as anything and I'll live forever. Yeah, because I'm young and I've got all this energy, this vital energy. Or nihilism, the world's absolute rubbish. I'm going to kill myself. Oh, this is the middle way. It's like, yeah, the world is a bit crap. It really is. And yeah, but you're not, let's be real. It's not pessimistic. It's realistic in its approach. And it gives the antidotes to the three poisons of hatred, and greed. And what's the other one? It's immediately disappeared from my head. Anyway, all of them. That which protects from suffering, the realization of reality and the path to achieve it. Okay, done that bit. Make sure I'm not missing out anything here. Yeah, so if we practice the Dharma, it will inevitably lead to true cessation. You know, the Four Noble Truths, the truth of suffering, the cause of cessation, and the path. Dharma is the path. And if we remember that wheel of life, he's on the outside, isn't he? And he's pointing to the full moon of nirvana. So that imagery is everywhere, that yes, you too can be this and have nirvana. Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want that? Dharma is the true refuge, and Sangha practice the Dharma. So if they're not practicing the Dharma, they're not Sangha. Yeah, because Sangha, and it might have different labels in different kinds of belief systems, but the Dharma is the path to liberation, to emptiness. Yeah, so Sangha practice the Dharma that will result in cessation. Okay, so remember, our inner Dharma here is our own innate wisdom. So when we engage with the Dharma, that's when we truly become an inner being, or it's called a Nangpa, an inner being. But if we're practicing the Dharma up there in the gods as well, we are inner beings. That's what we are. It's nice, isn't it? It's like we're approaching the world from a different place than perhaps what we did before we took refuge. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, if you ask any Buddhist teacher, well, what is the Dharma? I don't know if I told you that story of them. I met this woman, who's a friend of a friend, and she was introduced to me in Santa Fe, and we went for lunch. And she didn't really know anything about the Dharma, but she's a ski instructor. And she said, oh, the Dalai Lama came up to our ski center years ago. Oh, I don't know when that was, and I don't think it was related to this group. But anyway, this is the story. Oh, and she said he was so funny because they came up and he had all his entourage with him, and they were all, you know, giggling in the snow and trying to ski, and they loved the chairlifts. All this, Hogans didn't ski, but you know, they loved the chairlifts and jumping off and that, she said they were like children, giggling and giggling. And then they went to the cafe, and the waitress was absolutely amazed, and she sat down literally in front of the Dalai Lama and said, "So tell me the meaning of life." And I said, well, what did he say? She said, I don't know. That's the most important one. You can imagine them all just joyfully, you know, having fun like children in the snow. The Tibetans can be so playful. But I thought that was interesting. And this is what you can bring it down to, the absolute essence. We stabilize the mind, we avoid non-virtue, and we gather virtue. That's the essence of Buddhism, really. That's what we're trying to do every day, isn't it? That's what we can notice, even in our busiest days, is, my mind's full of, you know, I need to calm it down. I need to calm it down. And what did I do that's good? What did I do that's bad? That's it. That's basically it. So we can practice that. If we're doing that, we're an inner being, you know, because that's practicing the Dharma. So understanding the nature of the mind enables us to subdue it. Understanding that the mind is clear and defilements are adventitious, as the great yogis say, enables us to manage and remove negative aspects of mind and practice virtue. Teachings on karma and rebirth help us understand why bad things happen to good people, I guess, basically. So the outer objects, you know, of Buddha, Dharma, Sangha lead us to discover our inner objects of refuge. So if we've got inner Buddha nature, inner Buddha, then we've got inner wisdom. That's the inner Dharma. We have innate wisdom, and all we're trying to do is, as it says, free it and clean it and clear it, yeah, so that we can destroy the ignorance, get rid of all the attachment to the cravings. You know, we've done this in the Wheel of Life as well. Get rid of all the attachments to the worldly stuff, yeah, and our aversion to all the worldly stuff we don't like in the world. And that's our inner Dharma. So the qualities of the Dharma, 8 qualities, another list for you. There's always a list. Free from delusion, free from karma. This is the Dharma, yeah? Free from karma, pure, distinguishes between the 2 truths of conventional reality and ultimate reality. It's the antidote for the 3 poisons, leads to true cessation, liberates from craving, liberates from grasping, which is basically what I said, but all muddled up, yeah? There's your nice list, yeah? So, who wouldn't want that? I mean, how much better would the world be if those young people just had those basics? I mean, truly liberating to know their potential and to be able to learn how to stabilize the mind, and that this leads to a happier life. Because when you avoid non-virtue and you have a virtue, actually you're more content. There's more peace of mind. Can't guarantee external circumstances, but you'll be a rock and the storm will go on around you. You will not, crack up. That's what you won't do. Okay, so that's the Dharma. Get in there. Still with me. This is the Shasta Abbey nuns, actually. And I don't know if you can see me pointing there, but that's Tugten children. Yeah, they've created a nice community of nuns at Shasta Abbey. Might be worth a visit. The Sangha jewel, the Sangha community and our teachers. A bit of distinction here, because the Sangha jewel are arhats. Yeah? So they need to have realized emptiness, because we cannot fully rely on anybody who has not destroyed their ignorance. That's the point. Yeah? It's not fully destroyed. We can't totally rely on them. So the Sangha jewel, part of the Triratna, are those who have realized emptiness. So Sang means a group who have joined together to realize teachings and methods. Done that. Symbolic. Yes. So if you want to represent, or if you need in a community to be able to say Sangha, the symbolic representation of Sangha are 4 Arya beings who are ordained and keeping the 5 lay precepts and further vows set by Buddha in ethical restraint. So you would find Sangha jewel in, a more established monastic community, like a nunnery or a monastery. But whether you've got 4 Arya beings there, don't know. So that's the symbolic representation. But they can be like, and then it kind of goes down. This is the best, but you can make do with this and this and this, to just take care. So they can be lay practitioners who keep the 5 lay precepts. Yeah, so that would be no intoxicants, no sexual misconduct, lying, stealing, killing. Yeah. Sangha are not ordinary beings, although on a practical level, we might call them our Dharma friends. So we might all call each other up there and down here our Sangha, yeah? Because that's pretty good. We're all on the same path. We're all probably have similar teachers. We all come together, so we can guide each other quite nicely. And we can practice with each other, being harmonious. But remember, we're still limited beings because we haven't got emptiness. So that's the Sangha community. And I'm guessing that's what Tubden Chödrön with her nuns, not herself, no idea. But, you know, a lot of her nuns won't have realized emptiness, like in any monastic situation. But they'll be trying to as much as possible. And that also includes, the Sangha community also includes our teachers, yeah? Bodhisattvas and who we might see as Buddhas. We might see some of our teachers as Buddhas. Some people see His Holiness the Dalai Lama as Buddha. So our teachers are really important because they are the role models. If they are ordained, like Venerable Dondrup here, that, you know, they're representing a path of renunciation and, you know, strict vows. So they're really engaged on the path. So a lot of respect and a lot of valuing of the monastic Sangha and the teachers. Okay, so we're getting there. Just the qualities of the Sangha, which I've already talked about a bit, so just make sure we've got that. They understand emptiness. They understand about the two truths. They have bodhisattva motivation. And they're practicing the three higher trainings of ethics, concentration, and wisdom. And the three principal aspects of the path: renunciation, bodhicitta, and wisdom. So that's depending on whether you've realized emptiness or you're aiming for emptiness. That's the values and qualities of the Sangha. Okay, folks, enough from me. So you've got quite a bit of information there. What we've looked at is what is refuge and the worldly dharmas, and then we've looked at the actual genuine refuge and Buddha Dharma Sangha. So I would like you to have a discussion now, and you can get a cup of tea or whatever. I would like us to do a meditation before lunchtime of at least 15 minutes. So we can take this to past the discussion. If you haven't taken refuge, can you talk about whether this is convincing or whether there's areas that you're not sure about? Yeah. And if you have taken refuge and you're here refreshing and rethinking about it, what are you taking now that you haven't took before? Because that's important, because we hear this again and again. So, you know, what is, oh, I like that bit about, I hadn't thought about that. It's that kind of thing, isn't it? Where you're kind of trying to point out your learning. But please just kind of look at the worldly concerns. That's always a good discussion. I'm leaving this very free. You're just discussing what we've done what I've talked about this morning. You're processing it. So talk about the worldly concerns and then talk about your stories, what brought you into Buddhism. It's really important. Were you at an all-time low? You know, did you happen to just move in next door to Tibetan Lama, which is what my neighbor did? Yeah, Karen didn't have any interest in Buddhism, and then Geshe Sherab moved in next door. Incredible karma. So, you know, that's always a really nice story. So I'm leaving it quite loose, lots to process. Please go away. Well, let's give you 20 minutes. So that would be 25 to 12. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. You can take your, groups of 3, 4. You can take yourself into the other room, into the cafe, wherever you want. But we've only got 20 minutes till lunchtime, and I've decided in the break that it would be great if we can have a good discussion and feedback now. And then this afternoon session, I'll start with 2 meditations with a break in between, you know, so rather than squashing in a meditation now, which I don't want to do. Okay, so we've got time. So where shall we start? In here or up there? Up there. You've been volunteered, as they say. So who would like to feed back? I didn't ask you a particular question, but I just want to hear what the topic was and if there's any queries. Erin, you have to unmute yourself. I know you know that. Okay.
One of the things that stuck out from our conversations was that of gratitude for having met the Dharma, and also talking a little bit about when we're with people who don't have a spiritual path and who are just really into material objects, you know, trying to hold kindness and compassion in, you know, sharing time together and not getting frustrated that we're talking about plants and shoes and things like that.
Plants and shoes, that's a nice contrast. Okay, so some more about that, please, because I'm interested in this situation where it's a bit uncomfortable when you're with people who aren't into the Dharma. Do you feel, this is really important, do you feel that the Dharma sometimes separates you from friends, or that you've given up friends who aren't in the Dharma because you no longer relate? That topic. I'll ask you because we started, but then I'll also ask people here. So any feedback on that?
Well, personally, I would just say sometimes I limit the amount of time that I spend with people because I feel like things that I would be doing with my day, if it felt more Dharma motivated, would feel more important to me because life is so short.
Right, okay. Any other comments from my Zoom people?
Andy, I was in that same discussion group, and it was a real helpful discussion for me because I've been feeling that I have not let go of friends per se, but our relationship for the most part, not all, has changed. And what I do, and one of the things that we did talk about, is that when we're in that situation and a person is talking about redoing the bathroom and then redoing this and and it's all that being consumed with that. I mean, you just described a friend of mine perfectly this morning when you were talking about that. And then I just really try to work on, and I keep going back to, you know what, we need other people in our lives to develop compassion, to develop patience, to develop generosity. So that's where I go. But I have noticed a difference in my relationships.
Right. So, yeah, okay. Bobby, you were going, thank you, Barbara. Bobby, you were going to say something, weren't you? You had your hand up.
I was also in the group, and I you know, sort of piggybacking here to what Barbara said, and that one of the things, it's not that I don't want to be around people, but I have nothing to offer except listening and loving them. I don't really have a lot of engagement anymore, and I have finally settled for myself on being just fine with that. It used to bother me, but I've become a bit more of an, you know, more to myself than ever since I found Buddhism, in the best of senses. And the other thing that I do is, like Barb said, I sit there and feel when I'm kind of lost in conversation, I try to generate kindness just in my motivation for being there, and compassion in my motivation for being there, and let it go with that. There, as Barbara said, their karma is not to be getting it all right now. So I just try to help them along where I can.
Great, thank you. I'm going to turn to people here. That's well said, and it's a really interesting point. Did that come up, or have any of you got anything to say? Judith, no? Judith saying yes, but no, but yes, but no, right? Applauding. Judith is applauding you because she agrees with what you're saying, if you know Judith. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, yes. Did any comments about that particular point? Space. We've got space here.
Well, it's not that point. He says it's on.
Is that on? That
Yes.
microphone?
Can you hear me?
You can.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so
yes.
space, speak clearly to me. I'm the problem. Okay.
Okay. I've been lucky that I have, I guess since I'm so old, I've pretty much have a lot of friends that not necessarily Buddhist, but have a lot of wisdom. And I live in a 20 apartment complex that's not geared towards low income people, but it's the ones that people rent.
Yeah.
And so I'm the elder by quite a bit. And people come to me and Rita, who doesn't even live there, and they say, you're the only ones I can talk to. And then they have Buddhism within them.
Yes.
The same way of looking at things. Like we've got a millennial couple that I love, and they're breaking up after 7 years. And there's some anger, but there's also some understanding that we need to move on. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I fortunate really that I don't know if it's, if you're a renter, you don't have to worry about building on your house.
No.
You just have to worry about, if it's going to be sold out from under you. But so that puts us in the same kind of category.
Thanks. Yes, you're experiencing the same things. Okay, so
Andy, Bade had her hand up, and she's.
sorry, Jayla, what's that?
Bade, she had. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it, and I apologize.
Bade, yeah.
Yeah, she had her hand up.
Okay, Bade.
Hi, this is just a follow-up to, I believe it was Aaron's point and maybe someone else's about how to, being able to hang out or, spend time with people who are not followers of the Dharma versus people who are, and how best to use your day. So I just found directly from the taking refuge in the three jewels from FPMT, one of the commitments is having taken refuge in the Sangha, and one should avoid entrusting oneself to and keeping company with negative friends and followers of hedonism. And so I think there's no mention of Dharma or no Dharma there. I think that that seems to be what we should try to avoid, according to the FPMT.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to comment on this. We were trying to get another little topic in, if there's anything. Because I've been thinking about this while you've been talking. I think, first of all, it's very true that we can feel more comfortable to talk about the Dharma and our perspective with other Dharma practitioners. Yeah. Because we're kind of on the same wavelength, and I'm talking about my own experience. and I'll be personal about this because I have friends who aren't Buddhist as well as friends who are. But I would say that my friends who aren't Buddhists still have a certain attitude to life which fits with my attitude. They might not be Buddhist, but they're not necessarily, highly materialistic or hedonistic, because that would just feel uncomfortable. And I think it's also very true that we get a lot from each other. And I know personally that because you're a Dharma practitioner and perhaps your attitudes and the way you deal with life might be a bit different to the general populace, people do sometimes see you as a role model or a counselor, somebody who they want to talk to, that they kind of look at you and think, oh, I've got an echo going on. I've got this, oh, it's Christopher's fault, would be, wouldn't it? I've got this, he's trying to do something for us here, I know that. I've got this problem and I thought I'd talk to you about it. They're attracted to you. I think you attract, not that you've realized emptiness, but just that you have a kind of wiser view. So that goes on. But in the other hand, I think we do get enormous, we're not just getting the opportunity to practice patience and have compassion and kindness, but we can get things from people that still resonate with us as, kind of mainstream wisdom. It doesn't have to be Buddhist. A child can teach, you think, gosh, I don't even look at the world like that. Anybody can teach you. So we're here. I think it's a very important point, because what you're saying is you are more inclined to have a sense of refuge and safety with people who have the same worldview as yourself. But that doesn't mean to say that that people who aren't practicing the Dharma aren't also teaching us a lot from their own wisdom. They've got their own wisdom and their own sources of wisdom. And it's a bit like the attitude to different sects in Buddhism. We don't go, well, ours is, I'll only talk, to my Sangha or my teachers. We're open to the wisdom of all the other cultures of Buddhism. They've all got something to offer. So it's very varied here, but I do take your point, and I am the same, that sometimes if I want to rely on somebody, if I want to talk about something that is really important to me, I will go to my Dharma friend. And Badi's point is that in the FPMT guidelines or the teachings of the Buddha, is that we can encourage more non-virtuous ways of behavior if we hang out with people who are into hedonism or materialism. So, if all our mates are down the pub, I'm sorry, I'm English, down the pub drinking their heads off, I know this with some young men who shall not be named, that their friends drink that, and this is impossible not to have a drink when I'm with them. So therefore, it's difficult to maintain those friendships because you're definitely going down a different path. So that's what's awkward. And I would say that, and that is what the guidelines are, if you've got a group of people and they're really into the worldly concerns, then take care, because it's very easy to be swept along with the excitement. Yeah. And we'll soon find that our minds are not stable and they're not engaged in getting rid of destructive emotions and practicing virtue. I think that's the basics. It's that kind of wisdom, isn't it? I hope that's okay, but let's move on to another one. We've got 5 minutes before we have lunch. Anybody down here, what were you discussing in the room here? A different point. What came up? You talked about nothing. Come on. Did you talk about how you got into Buddhism? Yeah, that's really lovely. And I always think that's an interesting chat. I know, because I was getting my cup of tea while you were doing that. Who had the most, do you think, interesting story, how they got into Buddhism? Or pick one and we'll just hear that one. Christopher? Oh, they're all pointing at you, Christopher. Then we're going like this behind your back. There's a Dharma friend for you. Sorry, you have to use the mic. Yeah, then forget it. Go ahead. No, oh. Yeah. Okay, well, let's hear the story. Okay.
Well, I found Buddhism because of my own strong attachment to a woman. and I jumped both feet in to the deep end of the pool as just because I loved her so much, but there was a lot of attachment. So it was attachment. And I didn't want to lose her, and I wanted to, you know, find a common ground and something that we could connect over. And so it was all purely ego-based, selfish, everything that's wrong with attachment I came into this with, but I found a really deep connection with the Dharma, and that got me on my path. So I've been trying, I told everybody I was trying to use my attachment when I was failing to find the right motivation to do certain things. I'd let my attachment take me until I got to the point where my consciousness would take over.
That's brilliant. That's not unusual. Yeah. There's karma for you. Huge attachment. Yeah. Huge attachment. You were taking refuge in the woman of your dreams. Yes. She was going to provide you with all happiness. Yeah. So that's the initial refuge. But then through coming into contact with somebody who is practicing the Dharma, kind of then opening up to the real refuge, yeah, which undoubtedly will help you in your relationship with that woman, yeah? Because what happens when we're so attached to somebody, you know, we cling, we grasp, and it can end up in jealousy and possessiveness and all these destructive emotions. Whereas, you know, that transformation, I think, is beautiful. And it shows you how we are all interdependent here, you know, and we all, how we meet the Dharma is often through a friend or a lover, you know, that's how it happens. I've seen it with my own students. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Christopher. Do we have any nice stories up there in the gods, or didn't you go down that route? We've got 2 minutes. It would be nice. Did you talk about anything else? You obviously all talked about everybody talked about different things. Was there another topic that you want to share briefly? Anybody? No?
The only thing I can say is that it seemed like the way everybody in my group found the Dharma was either spectacular or kind of maybe fate, or you just kind of fell into it in a very dramatic way. And all of them are just so special and really meaningful.
And that, just to finish on that note, Shayla, that is what's so interesting, because we may see that we got into it in a worldly way, you know, not because, and again, we're kind of challenging ourselves. It wasn't because I was really, you know, deeply meaningful, it's because of this happened, but actually it is a karma. So we have created that cause to meet the Dharma or a spiritual path in this life and to engage in it. Because as in the case of Christopher, he could have easily gone, oh, bloody hell, I'm not getting involved with this woman, and buggered off and got somebody else. Yeah, easily. But no, he was open to it. He was open. That was your karma. So you have the imprints on your consciousness for those to ripen in this life through the connection, through that connection. And that's important to know, and perhaps to finish on at lunchtime, is that however we got into the Dharma, it is actually because we have taken refuge in previous lives with the Dharma. Brilliant. Well done, On. Good way to finish for lunch. Okay, so have a lovely lunch, and we'll see you at 2 o'clock.